Reset Podcast. And now your host, Jake Naraki.
What is going on, Reset Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Operation Self Reset. I am Jacob Naraki, and I am here to help you along your journey, along your life, to think differently, to think creatively, and understand you're in full control of your destiny and the life ahead. Thank you, like always, for joining me on this episode. It's actually number 51. Last episode was number 50. I guess that's usually how you go. You start with 1 and you count up. But 50 was a big hurdle for myself. It was right around the 1 year mark, and I could not be happier with this podcast. To all of the loyal listeners out there, thank you very much for continually check in with me week after week. And if you are new to this podcast, thanks so much for joining for the first time. I hope you get a lot of value and insight and a little motivation to keep yourself thinking that you are worthy of everything in your life and you can attract everything and anything you want when it comes to your own path, your own journey. If you're looking to start your own path, your own journey, head on over to osrpodcast.com and give me your email address so I can send you 6 high-quality PDFs to get your mind, to get your body, to get your life back on track, to find your passion, to stay motivated, simple tips and tricks to get your life in the direction that you want and that you know that you're able to achieve. So head on over to osrpodcast.com and grab yourself the Operation Self Reset Toolbox to get your life back on track. So with that being said, let's dive into the interview with Jimmy Burgess. It's kind of a crazy story, and it's something that I said from podcast number 1. Every single person on this planet, even you, the listener right now, you have a cool, inspiring, challenging, life-changing story within you. It's worth sharing. So next time when somebody says, "Hey, what's going on with you?" or "Nice to meet you. Where are you from?" Don't just say, "I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a job and a family." Tell them who you are. We all can learn so much from each other. And that's maybe not the story to come out with of some turmoil or some tragedy you went through, but hey, it's your life journey. And if you learn something out of it, it's truly worth sharing. So that's why I had to get Jimmy on here. So enjoy the episode. We'll catch you on the back end. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have on Jimmy Burgess, and truly I think this guy is a reflection of myself, or I'm a reflection of him. He has truly gone through his own personal reset, and he is spreading the good word of changing the person you are to the person that you want to become. Jimmy Burgess is with us right now on the podcast. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Jake, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you don't mind giving a background on who you are, where you came from, and kind of your story and what's the mission that you're currently on?
Yeah, really, I want to start my story kind of when I was about 33 years old. I had grown up kind of working in a family real estate company for a number of years. I got burnt out on that. I took a job, really the first working for someone else job that I'd ever had. I'd always done my own thing, and took a job as a commercial lender at a bank. It was right as the real estate market. I'm in Northwest Florida, and we saw the boom of the real estate market in the early 2000s. It was right at the beginning of that. I took a commercial lending job where I was making loans, and because of the market and my background, things took off. And but there was something missing in that job. I mean, I liked the people I worked with. I enjoyed everything. I enjoyed my clients, but there was something was missing, and so I was hoping at the end of the year when they said they would give the end of the year raises that I would get some kind of maybe a little more excitement about the job. I could take care of my family more. And we all know how that goes into the year. The raise just didn't come. And I knew I needed it. If things were going to change, I had to change. And so what I did is I just began to flood my mind with positivity. I read just every book I could get my hands on biography-wise that would have any kind of information on somebody that lived not just an ordinary life, but an extraordinary life. I really didn't care what business they were in or what they did, as long as they did something that was special, that they kind of had impact. When I did this, as I was doing that, we've all heard Zig Ziglar. I was listening to tons of motivation then.
Sure.
And Zig Ziglar says, if you can help enough other people get what they want, then you can have everything that you want. Now, I've probably heard this, Jake, who knows, as dozens, maybe 100 times. But for some reason, it just caught me a little different. And, there was a 3-month time period there where I finally left the bank and went on my own. And here's what I did is I just began to focus on other people. And I began to ask people, what is it that can help your business? And I was dealing with a lot of contractors, real estate developers, those types of people with my business. And all of a sudden, after a month or so, I looked in the people that I had stuff that they wanted written down on my right hand. I looked at my left hand, and the people that I'd asked over here, they had what those people needed. And I began putting those people together. And really, within a year after leaving that job, my annual salary that I had at the bank, within a year, it was my average monthly income. Within 2 years, it was my average biweekly income. But Jay, here's what happens. Sometimes when that money comes in so fast, at least it did for me, I just lost focus on who I really was, man. Sure. I got to a point where my ego and my pride got so involved that I just began to think it was all about me. And I began to focus on myself instead of other people. And when you do that and you think you're bulletproof, which is where I was at that time, I began to make bad decision after bad decision, compounded by the real estate market crashing, by bad decision. And then I'll never forget the day. I mean, it's May 4th, 2009. I'm sitting in the parking lot in Pensacola, Florida with my wife, and I'm about to have to go into the federal courthouse and claim bankruptcy. And I'm just sitting there, man. I'm going, what just happened? How could I take, this millions of dollars that came in that should have been a blessing and set our family up for life and turn it into this mess? And now how have I put my family in this position? There was just shame and guilt and all these things going on. Well, I just mentioned that one day, but it doesn't happen overnight. It took a few years for us to get to that point. It was just a slow tailspin into the ground. And, I just remember about 3 months before the actual bankruptcy, I was sitting in my office, and man, if you've ever been there, I just couldn't even take a deep breath. The pressure was so heavy on my shoulders. I would try to take a deep breath, and it was almost like I had this shallow breathing. And I just remember the phone would ring, and it would cringe because I just knew that it was probably a bill collector that I literally couldn't say anything to. And I just knew that, again, if things were going to change, there was just a point where I got to, this isn't working. I got to change again. And I got back focused on pouring all that positivity in. I got back focused on, all helping other people instead of focusing on my worries. And within a year of us getting out of bankruptcy, I started a new company about 2 months after the bankruptcy in a field that I didn't have any idea about. And within a year, we bounced back in a way that I didn't think was possible financially. But Jay, it wasn't even about the money. What was crazy is all of a sudden when you go through those things, I woke up that year after the bankruptcy, and all of a sudden I realized that my relationship with my wife was better than it ever had been. All of a sudden, my relationship with my kids and my friends was just deeper and better than I'd ever imagined. And even spiritually, I was in a better place than I'd ever been. And so, what's exciting about being able to do what I'm doing now is that I would have never believed this, but it literally took me losing everything that money could buy in order to be able to get to a point where I could appreciate and have all the things that money couldn't buy. And it's kind of ironic too, because my mess has now become a message. And that's when you were asking, what are you doing now? Man, I'm just out there trying to share with people that the struggles that we go through, that there is a process to come out of them. I'm not a professor, I'm not talking about theory here. I'm just telling you what I know, because that's how what I went through. And then once you go through it, I had people asking me, what'd you do? And, so I didn't even know. So I began helping some other people, and they began to see results. And then they said, you need to talk about this. I began speaking some. And then somebody said you need to write. And that's how the book came about. And man, I'm just excited to be out here just sharing the fact that the struggles they don't come to stay, they come to pass. And so thanks, man.
Yeah, and great story. And it's funny because I'm almost going through the exact same point in you. Obviously we come from different backgrounds. You claimed bankruptcy. I was very close to going through foreclosure on a couple of my real estate buildings. So it sounds like real estate for both of us wasn't the most optimal thing, but through the process, you and I came out better because of it. I started this podcast because of my issues financially. And then I had a child, on top of that. So it kind of really put myself in check. But it's interesting how you early on through the process and before you even got through bankruptcy and even started encountering that, let's go back to those books. Now, it's easy to say, well, I just started picking up self-help books and I realized positivity and all that stuff. Did somebody suggest something to you that opened your eyes to it? Were you always a person that was interested in motivational, getting motivated or self-help? Kind of take us through that transition when you realized the power in these books you could then apply to your own life.
Yeah, that was huge. And by the way, before I answer that, before I forget, man, congratulations on your first year with the podcast. I know
Yeah.
it's a year and a couple of weeks, but man,
It
congratulations.
is. Yeah. Thank you
that's
much.
awesome.
Thank you
Yeah.
much. Yeah. It's exciting. So it's like anything. Time flies, so you got to make the most out of it.
Absolutely, I know. But hey, getting to the books, I kind of was a student of it my whole life. Somewhere along the way, and I wish I could remember. My mom was always this. I mean, I remember I'm 43 years old, and man, I can remember the old cassette tapes, and man, putting those things in and just listening to the old cassette tapes and stuff from the time I was a teenager. I don't know why, but I just knew they made me feel a little different. They kind of I used them even in college. I mean, I was in, I played college golf, and I mean, I just remember I was just always a student of self-help and of it wasn't because it wasn't even because I just loved the actual books. It was I loved the way it made me focus, the way it opened my mind to possibility.
Sure.
And when I was in the worst place, that 3 or 4 months before the bankruptcy, in reality, it was that really got me. I remember sitting there one day, and I was just close as I've ever been to depression, and I said I got to change, and I plugged in this CD of Les Brown, if you know Les Brown.
Oh yeah.
That big booming voice, and I just remember him saying the very words. And it was like a light switch went off. He said, your struggle has not come to stay. It's come to pass. Yeah. Man, when he said that, Jake, it was like I'd been on my heels playing defense and just reacting to the world as it came, and it hit me as hard as it could. Right. And all of a sudden I shifted then to realizing that I was going to walk out of this, and I shifted my toes into the offense, and I began to start taking action where the world began to start reacting to me instead of me reacting to it. And, for me, I can almost track back good things when things begin to happen. It begins inside me, and it begins with those motivation. And there are always those 4 or 5, speakers that you can just plug in, and they just hit you right in the soul. And so, I mean, it's something I would encourage everybody to get involved with.
Yeah, I agree with you too. There's nothing better than that. And especially, in our society, we're always driving, we're always sitting in traffic, whatever. Instead of listening to that radio and that advertising and all that stuff, pop in some of those tapes. Doesn't matter who it is, whoever you find exhilarating or you like their voice, listen to their stuff. And even though you might not resonate with what they're saying 100% of the time, it's the little things that just pop into your head that give you that little extra to keep on pushing forward. So, no, you're exactly right. So throughout this process, then, you decided to hone in and really dive into the book take your knowledge and experiences, the things that worked, probably the things that did not work, and collect it and filter it into this book. So what are the key takeaways? What are the things that when you do speak to people, what are you trying to tell them and to make them realize in their own life?
Well, the biggest thing that I try to tell people is that, ultimately the decision is ours on how we react to things. I mean, sometimes, for me personally, when I was going through these things, I can look back now and see where there were opportunities. I was on that interstate of doubt, that interstate of worry, that there were exits that I just kept flying by, that I could have gotten out of that mess. So I just encourage people to get to a point where when you're ready, you can make changes. The good thing, like you're talking about, is now, whether it be CDs or everything, like your podcast, man. I mean, plug that in. When you're on the road, we're all on the road so much. Exactly. You've got access to this stuff. Use it. And I think it's almost like sometimes I catch myself where I'm like, man, I had all that time today. I was on the road. I could have used that. I could have put in, your podcast. I could have put in a CD, and my mindset would have been different. So, I just encourage people to get out there and just flood their mind with that stuff and just watch what happens. It's amazing what'll happen.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So let's talk about the person that's in their car right now. They're listening to this podcast, and they're listening to the story, and they're inspired by what you have personally gone through, and they understand that positivity brought you in and out of bankruptcy. It has shown you the glories of this great world that we're living in day out. What is the one thing that the average Joe is listening right now on the radio, and they're looking for that little tidbit extra to get themselves over that level, or they're in turmoil experience right now. They're possibly going through foreclosure. They're going through, they just got fired from their job. Their wife or girlfriend just left them. They're in the dumps right now. And they're looking at this podcast and listening at it. And they're thinking to themselves, I need a little something to get me out of this hole. When you were going through your bankruptcy, what was the thing that really grabbed you by the collar and started lifting you up?
Really, there were a couple things, but I want to concentrate on one because I believe sometimes I want to make this as simple as possible because a lot of times we make it so complex, and it's the little things that can make the changes. For me, I would wake up in the morning when I was in the middle of all that, and it was almost like I would feel like, once you realize what your day faced when you first wake up, it was almost like somebody had hit me in the stomach because all of a sudden I'd worry about the things I had to face. I'd think about the things that I was worried about. I would think about the things that could happen that typically didn't happen. And I just remember that, when we think about things, we actually find an ability. It almost expands. You begin to, your vision can find more of those things. If you're always worried about something, or it's like if you hear the person that says they're always sick, man, they're right. They end up always being sick. Almost like they talk themselves into it. Well, I did that with worry. A lot of times is I was so focused on the things that I didn't want to happen that a lot of times I'd find more things that could go wrong, and that's what I focused on. Here's what I do, and I even did it this morning, Jake. I still do it to this day, is I knew that I needed to start my day out from a different perspective. So what I do is when I get out of bed in the morning, my first foot hits the floor, I say thank, and then when my second foot hits the floor, I say you. And I just begin to concentrate. I try to do different ones every day, 5 to 10 things that I'm thankful for. My health, my wife, my family, opportunities, living in a house, in the South right now when it's getting up to 90 degrees already where we've got air conditioning. I mean, the little things. But here's what happens is when I began to, and at the worst time, Jake, I actually made a list of 50 things that I was thankful for. And every morning I would get up and I would read those 50 things. That's the first thing I would do. And what it did is it would set my mind in motion from a place of gratitude, of thankfulness, rather than a place of worry and concern. And like I mentioned before, here's what happens is when whatever you focus on, like we were talking about, your mind becomes open to it and you see more of it. That's what would happen. All of a sudden I would go through my day and I would find more things to be thankful for. Here's a good example of that. My wife, about 6 months ago, gets this white Buick Enclave. Now, I didn't even know what that was. It's one of these SUVs.
Sure.
And I just had never seen one before. At least I hadn't noticed it. Day after she gets it, I'm driving down the road, and I see her coming to me, and I begin to wave at her, and I feel like a fool because that's not her that's coming at me. Somebody else is in one of those things, right? I go another mile.
Was it another woman? She stopped and, and you started talking like, whoa, hey, back off. I got a wife.
Right. Yeah, it's not good. So I keep going down the road. I see another one coming, Jay, and I'm like, is that her? It's not her again. Here comes another one, a couple more miles, another white Buick Enclave. I'd never seen it before. Did that mean because that she got one, everybody else got one the same day? No, they were there the whole time.
Right.
But my consciousness wasn't open to it. It's the same way with our thankfulness. When you focus on that thing, those things you're thankful for, you begin to have your eyes open to all those other things you're thankful for. And it begins to shift you from being in a place of worry and of fear to a place of hope and excitement about the future. And man, when I did that, it all starts with your attitude. And that's where the big change was, is that just starting my day off from that place of gratitude.
Yeah. So
makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I am one. I'm very interested in gratitude, and obviously, this couple minutes where you talked, gratitude is a huge point that you feel is a must for everybody. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel that? Do you work with people currently? Like, do you coach people or anything like that? Okay.
Yes.
Is this something that you walk through with them and you kind of tell them this is a good way to start your day? And if so, are people willing to give it a try, or are people like, Jimmy, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to, wake up and say thank you each time my foot hits the floor.
Some do. And usually the ones that do say that are the ones that in reality, they're just not ready to change,
Sure.
to be perfectly frank. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but and I'll tell them this, and sometimes being a coach and being someone that, part of my job is just to call what I see. And sometimes I'll just tell them, I'll just say, I don't want you to waste your money here. I don't think you're ready. And they'll say, what are you talking about? I'm here, aren't I? and I'll just say, what you've been doing hadn't been working.
Right.
I mean, as quirky as it may seem, I'm sitting here in front of you. Sometimes we have to see before we can be. I'm telling you what worked for me. And, when you do that, usually they'll say, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And, when you've done it for a couple of weeks, it's amazing how the attitude changes. It's really with coaching clients where I start. We start from two places. The first one is we want to shift the mind to an attitude of gratitude. The second one is to get a clear idea of exactly where they want to go. Because once we have those two things in place, then we can formulate a plan. But it's getting the attitude right and getting a target, and then everything else we can, is easy from there.
Do you mind if we get into the attitude for a little bit? I understand gratitude. Yeah. Can you tell the listener how that connects with attitude?
Yeah, I think it's all how we view the world, and a lot of times if you view the world typically, and the things happen to us in a way that we typically have an attitude that they're going to happen. I think we've all got people that we know that, they think they're unlucky, and and a lot of times they end up being that way. And what happens is then you see the people that they have an attitude that that good things are happening. They almost, and I don't want to get into spirituality here, but they believe that God's for them. And they believe that the world is actually out there to help them achieve their purpose. And when you get to that point, it really shifts everything, because it takes some of the fear away, which fear is a huge thing to overcome. But when your attitude is right and you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, man, it really elevates you, that instead of just walking towards what you're supposed to do, you begin to run.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah. And how does one find what their end goal is? How do we find that why? How do you search for within your clients or the person that's listening right now? How can that person feel like, there's greatness within me? I know I'm geared for something. I don't know what it is. Do you have any tips or techniques or ideas how to bring that out within somebody?
Yeah. Really, I think the first thing to think about is what is it that you're good at that nobody ever had to teach you to do? Okay. What is it that that you're just naturally gifted at? Obviously, you've been doing this for a year, but obviously, you enjoy this.
Right.
This is not work.
Right.
This is you enjoy the ability to spread and help other people spread their message, and to spread hope and to speak. Nobody ever had to teach you how to do this. You just naturally knew how to talk and communicate with the people in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. No, that's a good way of breaking it down. No, for sure.
So here's the thing is the guy out there that literally loves to, I'm just going to use this as a crazy example. The guy out there that loves to make birdhouses.
Yeah.
That in his free time, all he can do is go on the internet and look for designs for birdhouses. That guy, there's something there, man. Right. That's put inside him for a reason. And, what's great about today is that whatever it is, the time that we live in, we've never had a better time where you can just take part-time and turn something that you love into a part-time income that can eventually become your full-time income. Literally right now, I don't care what it is. You can go on YouTube and write and punch in how to make money doing whatever it is that you love to do. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have millions of ideas there. It's not a matter of information. It's, do you believe you can do it? Do you believe that that's truly what you're supposed to do? Because once you grasp the fact that whatever that is inside you, that you're supposed to do it, and you've got an idea that, that you've got to do this, there's a shift when you start moving from that, boy, it'd be great to do this, to I've got to get this out from inside me. When that happens, man, it's hard to stop it. It's really hard to stop it.
Let's throw this on you now for a second. So do you feel where you're at in your life currently, going through your, heading into family business, then getting out of that, jumping into the banking, then getting out of that, do you feel that everything that you have come through in your life prepared you to what you're doing right now? Like, you feel that this is your passion, this is what you're created for, this is the true Jimmy right now?
Yeah, man. That's what's exciting, because, I realized that all the struggles and all the things that I came through, your struggle that you came through propelled you to come do this podcast.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
There was a purpose in all of it. And that's when you get to a point where you realize that, every bit of it was worth it. because it's molded me and it's brought me to this place. I mean, from a young age, I can remember being, in elementary school and having one line in a play and standing up there and looking at that audience smiling at me. And I don't remember what I said, but I remember walking off that stage in like second or third grade going, I don't know how, but somehow this is for me.
Cool.
Somehow I need to be in front of people. I mean, just at that young age, nobody ever had to teach me how to talk, how to speak, how to do that. I've never taken I've never gone to a Toastmasters class. I think I need to, but you know what I'm saying is nobody ever had to teach me how to talk to people in a way like this. But all the struggles I went through is what's given me the platform now and given me the ability to be able to counsel people in a way that 10 years ago, even though this dream was inside me, it lay dormant for all this time till right now, because now I'm prepared for it. Now I'm at a place where I've got something that I can share with people that can help others. And once you get to a place where it's not about you, it's about helping others, and you've got something inside you where you can help others in a powerful way, man, Jake, it's fun. I mean, that's the other thing, like you're talking about. I'll tell you how you kind of know that you're doing your purpose. Do you love it?
Right.
Would you do it if they didn't pay you? I mean, when you get to that place, and typically I found it in my life, when I get to that place where I'm doing the things that I love and that I would do without anybody paying me, man, that's when the money really starts coming in too. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I always enjoy asking this question. Throughout the process of your difficulties and everything like that, you obviously have a wife. You have kids, correct?
Yes, 3.
Did you have your kids while you're going through bankruptcy and kind of your tough struggle there?
Yes, we had 2, and then the third came right as we were in the middle of everything. Actually.
Oh, perfect timing. So what, if you wouldn't mind walking us through, what was your wife thinking, and then now what is your wife thinking about you now? Was she supportive? And then also to give us a bigger range, was the friends supportive? Were people like, Jimmy, you're crazy, this is ridiculous, what the hell are you wasting your time for? I always like asking that because you and I are on the same page. Everything that you're saying I'm resonating with, and I think we're both in the same church, different pews a little bit, but overall we're in the right area. So just give us a little background on the people surrounding you and how did they think about you?
Well, first off, it all started with my wife. I mean, we've got a saying in the South about people like me that marry above where they should be, I guess. Oh,
sure. Yeah.
We call it that I outpunted my coverage. There's no doubt about that. So,
that's good. Never heard that.
My wife, man, it's amazing. I mean, because you got to understand when your ego and pride gets involved, when you have that just millions of dollars coming in, you would think it's about you. Man, I was not easy to live with. And, and then through the middle of this, because of the stress, because, it's not just about finances, in the middle, a lot of people don't realize it, but when you're the opposite of being at ease is disease. And it happened to me. I ended up, losing my voice for 3 months. And, at 35 years old, they're telling me they found this mass on my false vocal cords that, that we walked through all of this during this time. And I just remember with the medication, it was a tough time for me. And I just remember one morning my wife came in and literally I'd kind of had this awakening where I was like, man, you're really screwing this deal up, everything. And I'll be perfectly frank. I just prayed and said, Lord, just let me see the things that I'm missing, that I've been taking for granted. My wife came in one morning after all this bad news and we were trying to figure out what was going on health-wise, and she just brought the medication into me because I was kind of bedridden with all the medication. And man, it was just like she just kind of smiled at me as she walked out, and it was like it hit me different. And I was like, man, she meant it when she said for better or for worse, through sickness and in health, and richer and poor. She really meant it. Yeah. And man, it changed me, and I remember my kids that same afternoon. They came home. My daughters at that time were coming home from school, and they crawled up in the bed with me. I got one under each arm, and they're just laughing and they're telling me about their day. And man, I'm just sitting there thinking how lucky and blessed I am to be able to spend that time with them. Because see, I was working 14, 15-hour days because that was what the world told me to do. I was out there, I'm going to get mine kind of attitude, right. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. And so I would literally kiss them on the forehead before I'd leave in the morning, and I'd kiss them on the forehead at night because they were already asleep when I get home, and they were still asleep when I'd leave. And so we wouldn't interact for a long time. And I just remember realizing, man, this is what it's all about. You're missing the boat here. And you have friends, and I've got friends that stuck with me through it. And you don't forget that. You really don't forget that, and you don't forget the people that didn't also. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm not trying to be,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, and let me tell you something. Sometimes, it's almost, that the old Frank Sinatra saying that, the best revenge is extreme success, I
Right.
guess, or however it says that. It's true, man. It'll motivate you that way too,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had some good people around me. The other thing is when I began to come out of this, I realized that some of the people that were around me when I was going through it were probably not going to be the people that were going to bring me out of it. And, I've still got, I had some people around me that, just weren't making decisions that were in line with, the way that I wanted to live. And, I had to make some separation there, and it's painful, but gosh, it's worth it. I mean, am I going to choose that crazy person that I hang around with that acts a certain way, or am I going to choose to be the husband I'm supposed to be,
Right.
or the dad I'm supposed to be, or the man I'm supposed to be?
Right.
So anyway, it makes you appreciate those people that do walk through it with you. And it makes you realize what true friendship really is.
Yeah, no, I hear you exactly, and like myself, I've made better friends because of it, and I lost good friends because of it too. And that's just the way it goes. And the people listening, no matter what happens in your life, people are going to come and go. The real friends, they stick with you. So, but
I love that most people come into our lives for either a reason or a season. And when you realize that, when you realize that, there's some that are going to be there for a lifetime, but there's some that are just there for a season. And, I got friends that have been friends of mine for my whole life. And, we're just not around each other that much. When we see each other, it's like we walk right back.
Oh,
together.
sure. Yeah.
But, but there's certain things, there were people that were in my life that I thought was for good. But the reason was not good, and I learned a lesson from it. And there's some that are just there for a season, and I think once you realize that, you kind of treat friendships a little bit differently too.
Sure. Let's move on into the book a little bit. So you got this incredible story. You realize a couple of things about yourself, and now you obviously want to share it with the world. What is the one thing, the one big takeaway that you want people to know you for? If God forbid, you turn 110 years old and your timer is clicking out. What is the one thing that you want people to remember Jimmy by? Like, what is the one line, the idea, the phrase, whatever it is that you want to hang your hat on that people can reflect on and go, man, that's Jimmy's. Yeah, perfect. That really got me going.
Yeah, I just want people to realize that that spring always comes after winter. And that there's seasons in life. And when I was going through everything, it was a long, dark, cold winter. Y'all have had one in Milwaukee.
This year was horrible. Yeah, this past winter was bad. I kind of know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing that you do. You knew even when it snowed in May up there,
right.
You knew that spring was right around the corner.
Right.
And so what I want people to realize, especially those that maybe are in a struggle, whether it's financial, whether it's a marriage or relationship issue, whether it's a health issue, is that spring always comes after winter. And here's the thing that's so great about it. Now, this is easy to say now that I've come through some of these things, because when I was in the middle of it, it's hard it's not as easy. But when you grasp the fact that this too shall pass, when you understand that, I'll give you a perfect example, like with my marriage, like with my finances. When you break your arm in a certain place, once it's set and it heals, that where it broke is actually stronger after the break than it was before. And so, the whole idea in the book, what I'm doing is I walk through the 7 steps that I used and that have been used throughout history. After I began to understand this and I got interested, I went back and searched out what had happened in the past. What was it that people like Abraham Lincoln that went through bankruptcy, Henry Ford, Walt Disney, what made it where, when most people hit that brick wall and they stop, what is it that drives those others past it where they actually become better and they end up going on to bigger and better things? And what I found is that everybody did similar things, those 7 steps that I talk about. And so, it's kind of one of those things where it's like a combination lock. If you know the numbers, you can open the lock. It works for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what I found is the people that I'm working with is just grab hold and walk yourself out of these things.
You know, the interesting part is that, like you said, Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln, people of the past, people of the future, there is, I don't want to say that there is, a game plan or a cheat sheet on how to become successful out of it, but there are reoccurring themes to these people, that they have done certain things to put themselves in a better position. And even though every situation is different, there are reoccurring themes that we can pick up on. Now, explain to us some of the 7 tips that you find enlightening that you explain. Either you can share all of them or just a few that you really enjoy.
Yeah, let me give you just a couple, and I want to give you a real brief with the time we have.
Yeah, sure.
It all starts with taking responsibility, admitting that you've made mistakes. When we're playing the blame game for 3 years, man, I just kept blaming everybody else. I mean, I would sit there and I would be pointing at other people with one finger, and I have 4 coming right back at me. I was angry. I was mad. I never took my responsibility. And even the situations where there were people that did things to me that I didn't have any control over, because that happens in life. There's certain things that we can't control. But in a lot of cases, I could look back that I'd allowed those people to get close enough to hurt me. Or like with my health situation, I had allowed myself to get in a physical condition where I could let this happen to me. There were things that I could have done to make them better that I didn't. So the first thing is the admit. That it's that way in everything. Alcoholics Anonymous, first thing they want people to do is stand up, say their name, and say that they're an alcoholic. They're taking responsibility. Spiritually, it all starts with admitting, So the biggest thing is start taking responsibility. Once you do that, then you have to begin to believe and understand that you can come out of it. You have to see other people that have done it. You need to get around some people that have come through what you've been through. And if you don't know people, wow, what's great now is there's books and biographies about everybody. So all you got to do is just go on either Amazon or wherever, and you can find a story of somebody that's come through what you're going through, and they've come out better. So begin to believe that you deserve to come out of this and that you can come out of it. Once you've done that, then obviously you've got to start making some changes. You've got to surround yourself with new people that are going to lift you up rather than pull you down. You've got to find some people that are going to be encouragements rather than discouragements. And when you do that, then all of a sudden you've got the ability to formulate a plan to start walking out of that. And once you come out of it, here's when you know you're starting to get healed, is when you begin to help other people come through what you've come through. You don't even have to be all the way out of it. I've got some people around me that have gone through divorces recently, and I know one in particular. And she's talking to this other girl that's only 2 or 3 steps behind her in the process, but she's actually saying, "You know what? I'm not where I'm gonna be, but I was where you were not too long ago, and I can just tell you it's gonna get better." Good. See, once you start helping other people through it, that's when you know you're really on the right track. So that's kind of just a few of the steps, and just kind of giving you an idea of an outline.
Sure. No, I think both of those are very powerful, and they both go hand in hand. Admitting is tough. I will, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you probably hear it with your clients, even yourself. Everybody. It's tough to admit that you are in the wrong. You are not the person that you really should be. You're not as nice as you could be. You're not always smiling as much as you should. All that stuff. That's a very tough one. But I think, like you just said, if you break through that, it can really open up the doors to great things. So Jimmy, tell us about your book. How can we find out about it? And I guess you have a little special surprise for some of our listeners.
Oh man, I'm excited because what's great about this, Jake, is actually right now. We started on Tuesday. It'll run through Friday. We're launching the book, and we're doing some things because as it's going right now, we're pre-recording this, so maybe it already is, but we should be hitting bestseller status any minute if we haven't already when Awesome. This is airing. And what we're doing this week is we're offering over $200 worth of bonuses for anybody that buys the book this week. So they can go to my website and actually find out some information on the bonuses we have. So it's a great time. This worked out perfect because we're going to run this for a few days to really drive some numbers there to put us over the top. And I just appreciate you having me on right here during this time. And Be More University is where they can go. It's BEMORE University.com. That's my website. once you get there, you'll see the book information. You'll go to the book page tab there. It'll have all the details on the bonuses and how to click through and what to do to get them. So thanks, man, for the opportunity to share that.
No problem, Jimmy. And for the listeners, seriously, check it out. Jimmy and I are really on the same page, and if you guys dig what I am doing with this podcast, I believe Jimmy has some great tips and ideas and things that would really resonate with yourself. So head on over there. But Jimmy, that's I appreciate your time for coming on here, and thanks for reaching out to me, and I'm glad we connected. I feel that you are a giver more than a taker, and like you said, if you help enough other people get everything they want in their life, you shall receive everything that you want. And you are truly living by that quote, living by that dream. And any last thoughts before we close it up?
No, man, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to coming back sometime, maybe also.
Yes.
And, I'm looking forward to your book.
Yes.
And, you've been talking about it long enough. Come on, man.
Oh man. Hey, as you know, it is it's a marathon, and truly I'm still organizing my ideas, and I keep saying it to kind of keep myself accountable. So, but gratitude is a big point in there, and also too with attitude. Maybe I'll have to pick your brain a little bit more. So, Jimmy,
I'd love to talk with you about it sometime.
Perfect. Jimmy, man, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks to Jimmy for coming on the Operation Self Reset podcast, and also congratulations, Jimmy, for completing that book. Like Jimmy was poking fun of me a little bit there. I am actually trying to complete my own book, and it's tougher than you think it is. So anybody out there that's trying to write a book or get their self published, it's truly a journey, and it takes a while. So with that being said, thank you so much to Jimmy. If you guys are interested in finding more about Jimmy, want to know about his book, head on over to OperationSelfReset.com. Also, while you're there, check out the new design. I recently got it updated around a month ago. If you haven't been to OperationSelfReset.com yet, it's worth checking out. I really like it. And you know what? If I enjoy it, that's all that matters. And I hope you do too. It's a very inspiring introduction to Operation Self Reset. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. I truly appreciate you guys so much. And if you're interested in resetting your own personal life, head on over to osrpodcast.com and give me your email address so I can send you these 6 high-quality PDF files. And like always, guys, just keep on taking one day at a time. And I know sometimes during struggling issues, you always try to look forward and try to figure out when is this going to end or whatever. Just live in the moment. Don't look too far out because you're going to miss the present. You truly are. I think all of us sometimes get wrapped up in wanting to look ahead towards that vacation or that event or something that happened, and we're waiting for it. All the time, our mind is there instead of where our mind should be, with our friends or family, enjoying these moments with each other in the present, because the present instantly turns into the past. So enjoy every waking minute. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Make sure to turn on Motivational Minute Mondays. Think about that one because I'm actually breaking it off into its separate podcast, but it's not launching yet. The date is to be determined, but I will keep you up to date. And if you want to get all of the updates of Operation Self Reset, head on over to OperationSelfReset.com and sign on up for the newsletter, and you will get all of the cool updates from myself. Thank you like always. You guys rock. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week, Wednesday, for another episode of Operation Self Reset.